Hello everyone and welcome. This is the webinar Process Requests in the Flash with Electronic Forms. My name is Danielle. I'm the content coordinator here at Laserfiche. I'll be one of your hosts today, accompanied by Alyssa, our International Marketing Associate. She'll be giving a software demonstration. We also have Ming, our pre-sales consultant, who will be handling the Q&A session at the end of our webinar. Our priority today is to show you how Laserfiche Forms can speed up the request process through the use of e-forms and automating forms processes. Now, let's just take a quick look at the agenda so you know what to expect. First, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of our software and show you a couple of examples of the types of forms that you can make. Then Alyssa is going to take over and launch our software demonstration to show you firsthand what Laserfiche Forms can do. This demonstration is going to be the most substantial part of our presentation since Alyssa is going to be walking you through a lot of the features of the software and explaining how they can be used for more efficient processing. Alyssa is also going to talk about a really great new feature we added recently, the Business Process Library. This is a collection of templates for common processes and forms that you can download to jumpstart your use of this software. Finally, we're going to close out the webinar with a question and answer session, which brings me to our next slide, housekeeping. Just a few things to mention before we get going. If you think of any questions during the presentation, please send them to us using the Q&A box in WebEx. We'll collect the questions and answer them at the end of the webinar. Just as a note, this webinar is being recorded, and we'll post a link to it on our YouTube page so you can access it in the future again if you'd like. Also, if you'd like us to email you that link to the recording, please let us know through the Q&A box. Finally, we highly recommend that you put the webinar on full screen mode so that you can see all of the features of the software clearly. You can do that by clicking on the arrow at the top right corner of your display. All right, so let me begin by explaining what Laserfiche Forms is. This software is an add-on to the Laserfiche system that allows you to really easily create electronic forms. You can create a variety of forms for both people inside your organization and people external to your organization. You can also control what happens with that information once it's captured within an electronic form. For instance, you can automatically route forms to the right people so that they can review and approve them, which really helps to cut down on the time to fulfilling requests. Now, just to give you some ideas, I'm going to show you a few examples of the types of forms that you can build. However, I'm really just showing a few examples today. The possibilities with the software are really limitless. Also, I should mention all of my examples are real-life uses. They're not just dummy forms that I built. Most of them come from our customers. So this first one is a job application, which is something just about every organization needs. This particular application is for a packing company. They're one of the leading cherry producers in California. They're called Warmerdam Packing. They hire about 1,500 to 2,000 seasonal workers every year, which used to be a really time and paper-intensive process until they switched and started using Laserfiche Forms. By doing that, they were able to cut down their application processing time from 3 weeks to just 2 hours for the entire people that they hired, not just one person. So they automated what happens with the information collected on the form, but Alyssa is going to talk a little bit more about that later. So if you look at this form, you can see that you can configure pretty much everything to suit your needs. This one has the company's custom header on it, as you can see up here, with their logo. They've also included instructions here at the top for potential applicants. And the fields are divided into different sections. Here's one about the position they're applying for, and then below that, their personal information. Those are all super easy to configure. You just drag and drop them into the form where you want them. This next example is a student registration form. This is for a school district in Idaho called Bonneville. They're actually the 5th largest district in Idaho. And here you can see some of the things you can do with forms, like creating drop-down menus and radio buttons. These are nice because they limit the kind of information users can input into the form. This allows you to standardize the information that's captured so you don't end up with random answers from users who weren't quite sure what to put in the field. We're actually going to mention the school district Bonneville again at the end of the webinar because they automated several different processes with forms, so stay tuned. Alyssa's going to talk more about them later. This next form is for an RSVP. This is actually something that we use in our company for the Laserfiche summer party. As you can see, you can get really creative with the design. Here at the top, our events coordinators included pictures of the venue to help get us really excited for the party. You also might notice that this form looks pretty short, but there's actually more to it. However, the rest of the form doesn't appear unless you RSVP yes to the party. If you do click yes, then this whole new field appears where you get to pick what activities you're going to participate in at the party. But of course, if you're RSVPing no, you don't really need to see that because if you're not going to the party, you're not going to participate in the activities. So when you build out these forms, you can hide fields that aren't applicable to all users, which is pretty nice. Here's my final example of our forms. This is a public records request form. You can see another great feature here. It's a calendar. So you have the ability to select a date with that calendar. If any of you pay your bills online like I do, you're probably pretty familiar with this. When you fill out those forms, they let you select the day your payment will go through from a calendar. Personally, I'm a pretty big fan, so I don't have to break out my calendar and look up the date of the day I want my payment to go through, so it's pretty convenient. But this form actually fills in the date automatically for the user, this one particularly. That's because the public records request process is really time sensitive. There are a lot of regulations about how long organizations have to fulfill public records requests, so it's really important that the submission date is accurate. That's another feature that's really easy to configure when you're setting up your forms. And this is actually what we're going to be demonstrating today. Alyssa is showing a public records request process. So I know that won't necessarily apply to all of our attendees here today, but we're really just using this process as an example to showcase all of the software's features. So even if your organization doesn't get public records requests, you'll still be able to see how Laserfiche Forms works and how it can speed up the processes that you do have. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Alyssa. She's going to walk you through how forms can automate what happens with a public records request in order to make the whole process faster and more efficient.
Hello everyone, my name is Alyssa and I'm very excited to demo forms for you today. It's truly easy to use as I'll show you right now. I'll be going through the public records request process as Danielle mentioned. As you can see on my screen, we are on a county's website, and to request a record, we will just go straight to public record requests here. And we'll begin as a member of the community requesting a city record. As we go through the process, the request is sent to the city clerk's office, then assigned to the relevant department for retrieval of the record. The city worker will use Laserfiche to search for the requested document, redact any sensitive information, and then deliver it to the requester. The requester will be able to access the content using web links, which I will tell you about in a second. So here we have our form. You can embed a form like this directly onto your website instead of providing a link to it like what we did here. Everything you see on this form is configurable. The title, the background photo, the logo, the different fields here. You can make certain fields required or not. You can also choose to set restraints for standardizing answers. For example, in this email field here, I must enter something with an email address format. Otherwise, it won't let me go on with the form. So let's change that back to the proper format. There's absolutely no coding experience required to make a form like this. On the back end, it's just a simple drag and drop feature to enter the fields onto the form. And there's a variety of fields to choose from, way more than what you see here. So we just filled out the form as a requester. Under preferred method of delivery here, there's a drop-down menu. You can also configure these menus to your specific requirements, and whichever option the requester chooses, it will trigger a different process. So let's go ahead and request a building permit for this address here. And at the end of the form is a CAPTCHA. You can choose to include this as an extra layer of security, and this is just to verify that every submission is an authentic request and that it's not spam, because who likes spam? There is also an FAQ at the bottom, which is there to just help with troubleshooting issues or to answer some common questions. So let's go ahead and submit the form. And this will take you to a thank you page, which you can personalize. And notice that this message has taken some of the information from the form that we just filled out, like the name and the email here. This is another very useful feature of Laserfiche. It can leverage information from the beginning of a process and then use the same data in the different stages afterwards. So now, it's the city clerk's job to assign this request to the correct department. You can configure the process so that whenever there is a request submitted, the clerk will get an email notification, so she doesn't have to check her task every day. In this case, let's go directly to what the clerk will see on their form's tasks. Here we can see my tasks, which are tasks assigned specifically to you. And in this Available tab, there are tasks assigned to your team. So we'll go in there and we'll find that the request that we just submitted is in there. If we highlight that one, and if we click Show Details here, you can see which stage the task is currently at. And this can really help eliminate bottlenecks. For example, if you're wondering what's happening with a specific request, you can open this up and see where it's being held up at. So this way you can know exactly who to chase for your request. Or actually, you might not have to do that because you can actually automate reminder email sends before due dates. So let's review this request. We'll open it up and assign it to ourselves first. And then up here, you can make this task available to your team again with this button. We can reassign it to another member of the team. We can edit the due date or edit the priority. So we'll review this form and see that this person is requesting to see a building permit. So, of course, let's send this to the building department. And you can add comments here, which the manager of the building department will see. So let's submit that. Now, I'd like to pause here to show you the operational dashboard. And what this dashboard is that it will give you an overview of all of your department's tasks. And then on the top left here, under Instances Overview, you can see the total number of tasks that are in process. Then it breaks it down by stage here. So you can see which tasks are at which stage in their process. And to the right of that, you will see where each task is at currently in terms of due dates. And with this, you can make sure tasks are being done in a timely manner, and it makes it easy to just stay on top of your tasks and so you don't miss any deadlines. Underneath that is the user task distribution. This breaks everything down by how many tasks each user has. So you can clearly see which member of your team is working on what. This allows you to better distribute tasks within your team. The Insights box here provides information about specific members of your team. So in case you notice someone in your department who seems to be looking bored recently, you can just check this dashboard and maybe assign them some tasks. And to the right of that is basically the same information, just sorted by entire teams. So let's go back to our record request process. The city clerk just assigned the task to the building department manager, so let's open up the manager's email inbox. And we are there. We see that he's received an email notifying him that there's a request that needs to be fulfilled. So all we have to do is just click on this link to open up the form so that he can just review it. Okay, and here it is. So let's just scroll down and see what they're looking for. We see that they're looking for a building permit for this address. And then we can also see here the clerk's comments to the building manager. Okay, so let's go into the Laserfiche repository to find this record. And what the repository is just where you would keep all your folders and files, kind of like a digital filing cabinet. So here on the sign-on screen, we can go under Options. You can choose to use this single sign-on to use your Windows credentials to sign on, so you don't have to constantly enter your username and password. But for today, we'll sign in as someone on the building team. We have Billy Builder here. And this will take you to Laserfiche in Web Access. And this you can access through any web browser, including mobile browsers. So here we have our repository. We have our folders on the left side here. And if we click into Building Permit, we have our files in the middle here. And then on the right side, we have our metadata pane, and this will show you very useful information about the document. So as you can see, the building permits are not named by address, so we have to do a search for the one we are looking for. So let's enter the address into the search bar. So here's the building permit we're looking for. If we look down here at context hits, this helps in finding the document we need. This is a little preview into the document, so we can make sure that we've got the right one. Cool. So we have our document here, which we will be viewing it within Laserfiche. In here, you can review the information and add any annotations that we need. If there is sensitive information on here that we don't want the public to see, we can use the redaction tool like this. And this will show up as a black box to the requester, but for now we can see through it because, of course, we have the rights to see it. We can also choose to use white redaction like this. And any information that is redacted will not show up in search results or in metadata fields. And this is just to keep private information private. Now let's get the record ID here so we can enter it back into the requester's form. There it is, and then we'll just enter it into there, and then we'll say here's the document, and then we will submit it. And now we're back at our task. And as you can see, there's no more tasks, and we just completed our job. So now the requester will receive an email notifying them that the request has been processed and that they can review the document. As you can see here again, this email has pulled information from the original request form, like the name of the requester here. And this link here will take us to the read-only file in WebLink. And WebLink is the public portal where you can place read-only files on. And what this is that it enables the public to see files in your repository, but won't be able to change them. We can see our redactions here and here. Another really useful feature of WebLink is that it allows any member of the public to browse and find records within your repository themselves. So if they don't want to take time to submit a request or don't want to wait for the request to go through, they can go into WebLink and just search for it themselves. So I want to show you an example of a real-life WebLink homepage. This is the city of Anaheim here in California. And everything you see here is configurable. The banner at the top, the logo, the links under the search bar. You can design this however you want. Under the search bar, They have linked to the different types of folders that people can search for. And of course, you can determine which records are accessible to the public and which ones can or cannot be downloaded. It's all up to you. And just for fun, let's look for the building permit for Disneyland, which is actually located in Anaheim. So we'll search with Disneyland's address here, and then we see there it is. And then here in the window to the left, you can view information about the document. You can print it if you want using this button. You can view it in plain text. So this is a very helpful tool for members of the community to find public records themselves. Okay, so that wraps up the demonstration of the records request process. As you saw, Forms is super easy to use, and it can get so much done. There's one more thing that I would like to show you, as Danielle mentioned earlier, because it will actually make your life even easier. Just when you thought it couldn't get any better, here's the Business Process Library. The Business Process Library, or BPL for short, is basically a digital library of pre-built form and process templates designed for fast process automation deployment. And you can use these pre-built templates to essentially get things done in a flash. As you can see here, we have tons of already pre-built processes. For example, here we have HR processes, we have job applications and new hire onboarding. And so these are all pre-built for you, so you don't have to go and start it yourself. We can take a look into education, and these processes are catered just for the education sector. We have change of major or minor requests, adding and dropping courses, or diploma requests. These are all pretty popular. So let's go into government just to take a look there. And look, the public records request process that we just did is already built out for you. Let's go into that one. Up here is a description of what the process is. It's just basically a walkthrough of what we just did. Here we can see screenshots of the process, so let's click that one. And here we can see what happens at a request at each stage from start to finish. Then let's go and look at the form. This is all pre-built here, so you don't have to create it from scratch. However, if you did want to change anything here, you can. You can change anything to meet your specific organization's needs. And then down here, we have more information about who is involved in the process, where in the repository the fulfilled requests are located, additional components required, and additional files that you'll need for this process. And to use one of these, all you have to do is download it directly from the library here. Then you can just quickly deploy the automated process in a single department or throughout your entire organization. And then it'll just be ready to go. And we're very excited about the BPL, and we really hope that you are too. It's a great feature we have just added to help you get up and running even faster. Okay. So if you have any questions about the demo, please feel free to submit them in the Q&A box now so that we can gather them and answer any of them during the Q&A after this. Now let's switch over. I would like to show you a case study of one of our customers, Bonneville Joint School District, as Danielle mentioned earlier. I want to tell you how they streamlined their public records requests, because it really shows how Laserfiche Forms can make this process easier and just more efficient. If you remember, Danielle said earlier how Bonneville automated the student registration process with Laserfiche Forms. And I would like to emphasize that they were able to reduce the time required to register each student by 96%. From half an hour to just 1 minute for each student. And there are a lot of students. However, student registration was not the only process they automated. As a public school district, they also received public records requests. With nearly 12,000 students enrolled in 24 schools, the district must process a lot of these requests. They receive around 100 requests a year, and with the recent building of a new high school, that number has significantly increased. And just to make things more difficult, state law requires that the district provide the information that is requested within 10 working days. This is pretty difficult when operating on a paper-based system. So this is what they did. They used Laserfiche Forms to set a 10-day deadline for a request to be fulfilled as soon as someone submits a request through their form, which you can see here on the slide. And once the form is submitted, the relevant departments will be notified of the request so that they can get on it right away. The superintendent, assistant superintendents, and the HR director are also all notified, and they all receive a copy of the request. And additionally, they will all be able to view it at the same time in Laserfiche. And this allows for easy collaboration and just makes sure that everyone is on the same page and knows what's going on. And then the requester is also notified with an email which includes the date of when the information will be available. So it just gives them a confirmation and they know when to expect the information. And then once the information is obtained, the department updates the form and uploads any files. They can mark it as complete. But if for some reason they need to, say, send it to a different department to get more information, they can also easily do that. They can also delete requests if a request is invalid. An email is then sent to the requester with all the documents attached. All the requests that the district receives are automatically saved into Laserfiche so that it's easy for them to find it later on. So that was just a quick summary of how Bonneville streamlined their records request process. With this system, they don't have to worry about someone being out of the office to fulfill a request. They can easily just forward it via email. Requesters are kept in the loop throughout the whole process, which creates a better customer service experience. And the biggest advantage of having Laserfiche for them is not having to work with paper. The clerk doesn't need to forward the paper documents to various departments manually as they had to do before. They didn't have to make multiple paper copies for everyone to look at. This is all digital now. So as you can see, Laserfiche Forms can really do a lot for your organization. Now, if you have any additional questions, please send them through the Q&A box now. I'm going to be handing things off to Ming, who is one of our pre-sales consultants, and she will be handling the Q&A for you now.
Hi, hello everyone. This is Ming Xie. I'm a pre-sales engineer here at Laserfiche. And thank you everyone for your questions. We're receiving a ton of questions at this moment. So give me a minute to read all their questions, and I'll try to get everyone's questions answered. And if we run out of time, we'll also post answers on the website after the Q&A. Okay, so first off, we have a lot of questions regarding the product that we're showing today. This is Laserfiche Forms 10.1. So what we're showing you today is the latest version of the software. So everything's on 10.1. And we also have a couple questions regarding the business process library. So the business process library is only available in Laserfiche Forms 10.1. So make sure your system is on the latest version of the software, and that'll be available to you. And there's also a question regarding where that is located. So I'm going to go ahead and let Alyssa take over and show you where that business process library is located. All right, so what you're seeing here on the screen is we went ahead and navigated back to Laserfiche Forms. So we're logged in as a user who can create a business process. And so this could be a manager, system administrator. So when you click create a process, what's going to happen is you'll have a list of available templates for you as well as a list of business process library. So from here, directly on this page, we can go ahead and select the sector or the industry that you would like to access, and you'll have a list of forms available to you. So let's take a look at government sector. So for example, here we have that public records request that we just demonstrated. And here we'll have a description of that public records request, and you can see a preview of the form as well as a process diagram. And when you download this form, what's going to happen is you'll have that process available to you on your system, and everything is annotated so that if you're not sure about what this step does, take a look at the annotation, and everything is configurable. You can go ahead and click on each step and follow the instructions outlined in the annotation and go ahead and configure your process. Okay, and we also have a couple of questions regarding the form itself. Okay, so questions regarding the form itself. There's a question regarding, how about if the form needs a signature? So again, everything on this form is configurable, so all these fields can be made into required fields. If we need a signature from the form, we can go ahead and add a signature. And the interface is very easy. It's a simple drag and drop interface. So the designer, all he needs to do is drag that field on the form and make that a required field. Okay, so another question regarding, the email notification. So someone asked, if this process utilizes email, can we accommodate other types of email such as Gmail or Hotmail, etc.? So the email notification that we utilize, we can accommodate any email. So we can send emails out to users outside of the system or the users within the system. And as long as we have the email address information in the process, we can go ahead and notify that user. Okay, so we have another question regarding the public record that is displayed in WebLink. The question is, can you allow the public to see the documents on WebLink without having the metadata available? So everything you see on WebLink, you can go ahead and configure security so that we don't show the metadata information on the document. So for example, we can allow the user to only see the document itself without the metadata information. And a couple more questions regarding the records. So the question is, if you have records that are not currently stored in the Laserfiche repository, can you upload a requested record from another source to fulfill the request? And the answer is yes. So let's say if you're migrating to a different system and you currently have records stored in Laserfiche, and maybe a section of the records are stored in a different system. So what we can do here is, using the forms process, we're using the forms to manage this records request. But we can also upload documents throughout this process from a different system. So essentially, we can go ahead and upload the documents from different systems and then send that record and deliver it to the requester at the very end. Okay, so a couple more questions regarding the final record. The question is, can the final form reside in those Laserfiche in another format, such as PDF, if the end user doesn't have access to the Laserfiche system? So there's a couple ways we can do this. So what you're looking at here in WebLink, this is our public portal. So the user doesn't need to have access to the Laserfiche system. Essentially, this is a public portal for them to view documents in our repository. So they don't need to sign in using their credentials. So anonymous users can access those documents, those public records, directly through this portal. In regard to the format of the final form, we can also save this form in a PDF format or in other formats. What you're looking at here is an image document, but this can also be saved in a PDF. All right, so we have a question regarding uploading and attaching documents in the forms process. So earlier, we're interacting with Forms product using our web browser, and the question here is, can we attach supporting documents to a form that's being submitted? For example, can it be a picture taken with a phone? And the answer is yes. So you can attach any supporting documentation, and this could be, a picture, a document, or any electronic document to the form that's being submitted. So it doesn't have to be the starting form. You can upload a document at any point throughout the process. Okay, so another question here is there a way for this form to be printed? Perhaps it's for, someone that's, for users who don't want to use a computer? And the answer is yes. Ideally, we'd like to store everything, digitally in the Laserfiche repository. But again, everything here creates a document. So the form that we submitted here, any additional documents are attached along the way. We can go ahead and print those out at the very end of the process if that is what your organization needs. Okay, so the next question is, can I use this product with Laserfiche 9 version? And the answer is yes. So some of the features that you're seeing, that you saw today may not be available in 9. For example, the business process library is not available in 9, but most of the forms features, for example, you can still configure this form using Laserfiche 9, and you can also assign tasks to different users and create business processes using Laserfiche 9. All right, so we have a lot of questions coming in, so keep them coming, and I'll do my best to answer all of them. The next question is, once you have completed the request, can you file this away in Laserfiche for records management? And that is definitely yes. So everything you saw here, again, we can go ahead and file them away in Laserfiche. Even though it's a forms process, we can generate a final request form and save that and archive it in the Laserfiche repository. And we can also apply retention schedules using a records management system. Okay, the next question is, how can you start the process if the request submitted is on a printed or handwritten form? And that is a great question. So what we saw today is an electronic form. So the user will be going on the website, submitting a request to electronic form. But if you're still using a paper process, we can also kick off this process by using a paper form and saving it in the repository. So what is not shown here today is a Laserfiche workflow, and workflow can go ahead and take that information and route it to different approvers or or record retrievers who need to go ahead and make that request. Okay, so the next question is, coming from the user, how do you start a process? The user says, when I look at the help page, it says that the admin has to delegate the keys. It looks like the user has forms, but he or she cannot make a business process, or he or she cannot start a process. And so the reason is because in order to create a process, the user needs to be given a process creator role. And so this is configured in the Forms Administration console. And so if this user has the process creator role, he or she will have this option to create a business process. And if this user doesn't have that role, this page will be blank. So I would definitely suggest consulting with your IT department to make sure you have that role before you can create a process. Okay, the next question is there additional training to see how information can be pulled from forms to populate metadata and to put documents into the Laserfiche system versus extracting information from the system? So it's a very good question. So information can be pulled. So for example, information that we see on forms, we can go ahead and pull that information from external database and use it to populate the forms that we're filling out. So essentially, we can go ahead and if any of this information is already in your current system, we can go ahead and use forms to look into that system and pull the information that we already have to autofill this form. So once the form goes through a process, we can also use that information to populate metadata. So that is what you're seeing here on the right-hand side. So on the right-hand side over here, you have Laserfiche metadata. So any of those information, once we capture that information, we can go ahead and push it into Laserfiche metadata. Okay, the next question is, can we digitize an existing hard copy form to Laserfiche form? And the answer is definitely yes. So here, what we're looking at here is a digital, a web-based form that we created for this particular demonstration. And just to show you the back-end interface, so I'm logged in as a user who can create forms. So this is a back-end interface, and this is what we call a forms designer. So essentially, all the fields you saw on that form are on the left-hand side, and to the right, you have a canvas. And it's a very simple drag-and-drop interface, and it's very easy to use. So if I wanted to add a new field, all I have to do is go ahead and drag that field and place it anywhere on the canvas. So any of those hard copy forms, you can turn it into electronic forms simply by using our Forms Designer. Okay, so the next question is there a limit for the number of persons that can have administrator access? And the answer is no. So there is no limit. It depends on how your system administrator would like to set it up. And essentially, under the user, the user security settings, administrators can go ahead and assign those security settings to individual users. So there is no limit as to how many users can have administrative access. So the next question the files that were shown here today, they only show the record ID, is what you saw here on the column view here. We have the name of the document and the record ID. And the question is, can they be named files? And that is absolutely yes. So they can be the name of the document or they can be the record ID. In the demonstration, the reason why we're using a record ID is because these are unique identifiers that are associated with individual records. And so let's say if in your system you have a standardized naming convention for all of your records, we can also use the name of the document to look for that record in your system. Okay, so another question is, a user mentioned that they would like to, they're interested in using Forms product to create contracts and administration. And so that is definitely possible with Laserfiche Forms. So over here in the business process library, we have a list of business process templates that you can use, and you can certainly use that to create a contract or manage a contract creation process, routing to different teams for approval, or to draft the contract and the final delivery of the contract.
I'd like to add also, if there are any processes that you don't see here that you would want to see here, you can actually submit ideas for new processes for us to build, and you can just do that here by clicking this link to the answers page, and you can submit whatever ideas that you have to add something on the BPL.
Okay, so one more question just came in. The question is the workflow that process this form included in the BPL? For example, that I think what this person is referring to is that business process diagram behind this form, and the answer is yes. So, for example, if I go to the government sector and open up the public records request form, so over here you can see that business process behind the form, so that's also included in this download. And if the form involves any workflow processes, that will also be included in the briefcase, and any additional download files are in the business process library. Yeah. So at the very bottom, you can see that we have additional files that are required to put this entire process together. Here we have that Laserfiche records request repository briefcase, and that is just the folder structure that we're using for this records request, and any workflows that are associated with this business process is also included in the template.
And all you have to do to download that is just click this link here, so you don't have to go anywhere else to find it.
Hey, one more question just came in. This one says, does Laserfiche have a mobile app for the electronic forms, or is it only conducted through internet or web portal? And the answer is yes. So the Forms piece is actually available through the web, tablet, and mobile phone. We have a separate mobile app, and it also allows you to download the form directly to your device. So, for example, let's say if you're going somewhere that's out of the network and you don't have internet access, what you can do is you can download the forms on your local device, and when you receive internet access, you can send out that form, or you can save any of those working drafts directly on your device and send that out as soon as you get internet access. Okay, so that kind of wraps up our Q&A session. If there are any more questions, feel free to keep sending it to us. If not, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. And we'll also post a list of answers after the poll.
Okay, everyone, that wraps up our presentation for today. Thank you for attending. We appreciate you taking time out of your day to learn about Laserfiche Forms. So I hope this presentation helped to showcase the great capabilities and answer any questions that you might have had. So with that, have a great rest of your day. Thanks.